Connected with Mr. P Uma Shankar, the former Power Secretary. Mr. Uma Shankar, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry for that error. Have a great 2014, Mr. Uma Shankar. Because of this subsidy which the Delhi government provides, what might be the impact on the finances of the power discoms, you think?
Very good morning. Very happy new year to you and all your viewers.
Thank you, sir.
The government has decided to provide subsidy up to a consumption of 400 units. This would mean that the power companies' rates would be the same as declared by the Regulatory Commission. But the subsidy will be then going to the distribution companies, so they will not suffer on account of the lower rates that the consumer would ultimately pay, because it is going to be subsidized by the government.
Okay.
So I don't think the distribution companies as such would be affected financially by this decision. So the point is that slashing of rates is not, shall we say, at the level of the tariff that is decided by the Regulatory Commission, but for the end consumer. So the distribution companies will not suffer on this account.
Okay. There is no question of the Delhi government being able to slash tariffs, isn't it? That would have to go through the DERC. So this is basically a subsidy. The tariff remains the same, but instead of the consumer, the government pays it.
That's right. You see, the process for fixing tariffs is very clear, which is that the Regulatory Commission will consider a petition submitted by the distribution companies. Then they go through public hearings on the petition that is given by Regulatory Commission, and then come to tariffs. Okay. So this is the statutory role that is given to the Regulatory Commissions, and state governments cannot decide these tariffs. In fact, the Regulatory Commissions were set up with the amendment in the Act in 2003 to move away from a regime where government used to decide the tariffs.
Yeah.
So no, government cannot go back and say that we will decide the tariffs or we will slash it. That is not possible.
Okay.
So at best what the government can do is to provide a subsidy to any category of consumers if they think that the tariff decided by the Regulatory Commission is too high.
Okay. Mr. Uma Shankar, good morning and Happy New Year to you, sir. Thanks for joining us this morning. We understand there will also be an audit of the power companies. In your mind, what could that throw up? And are these power companies not audited already?
No, the power companies' accounts also go through their audit, the company regular statutory audits that are required. So this is something that probably the government wants to get the CAG to probably do one more audit of this.
Is that legally tenable, Mr. Uma Shankar? Because ultimately, I think 51% is with the private unit, isn't it? It's not exactly a government unit and therefore doesn't fall within the ambit of the CAG? Or can the CAG nevertheless call for it?
I would really not be able to say immediately. One probably will have to look at it. But since 49% is owned by the Delhi government, I do not think you can rule out the role of CAG in this. Okay. But one probably will have to look at the the rules more carefully to see whether CAG's ambit would include this also.
Would you believe that there is any scope at all for a post-audit for the Delhi government to require the distribution companies to slash tariffs? Is that possible at all?
You see, what would happen is that what could happen is that if the audit of these previous years throws up a different picture, then probably going forward the demand for tariff increases filed by petitions of distribution companies would be looked at differently by the Regulatory Commission. That is what I would think.
Okay. Mr. Uma Shankar, what is your sense though? I mean, these are private companies, listed companies. What has been the status of the Delhi distribution system itself? We know that a lot of distribution companies did not have audited accounts when the Shunglu committee went into the whole process. But these are, you know, public-private partnerships. Would there be question marks? I mean, should this be an overhang? You know, a large part of our audience are investors. Would this be an overhang at all? Because these are privately audited companies, listed companies. Would there be holes in this JV?
I don't think so. I think the accounts of these companies, private companies, and some of the state-owned distribution companies have got their accounts prepared, finalized in time and audited. Delhi must be one of them. So there is no issue about that. I do not think this should cause any concern. Like I said, the regulatory commission, if there are some audit findings, would probably keep that in view while deciding tariffs in future. That is what I think would happen. In any case, I think we should wait to whether at all the audit is going to happen or going to happen. And once that is taken up and the audit findings are out, only then one can say anything for sure. But again, a number of these, even the state distribution companies, have got their financial statements prepared. Many of them were overdue for very many years. So
was Delhi one of them?
Pardon me?
Was Delhi one of them?
No, Delhi was not one of them. The two companies had got their audits done well in time.
Okay.
They are not among the defaulters.
Okay.
I'm talking about some of the state distribution companies.
Yes.
There was a program for financial restructuring of the distribution companies.
Yes, sir.
For the state-owned distribution companies. So we had one of the conditions was to ensure that they do their audits in time.
Okay. Actually, one of the interpretations of this subsidy has been that in fact the power companies are on a sounder footing, because instead of poor consumers who may default on their payments or delay their payments, now the person who owes money is the Delhi government, whose treasury is very strong. So actually the two distribution companies are in a stronger footing. Is that a fair interpretation?
Well, I would only think that instead of the distribution companies, it could have been much worse for them if there had been some way of forcing them to reduce tariffs. That would have been difficult for them. Instead of doing that, the government has provided subsidy, which was what was done in the previous government also.
Okay.
I mean, they had given subsidy up to a particular point.
Okay.
Now they have increased it to the next slab. That's what they have done.
Okay. So just one more point.
For the distribution companies, it's not an issue for them.
Okay. So just one more point. We are given to understand that the two distribution companies owe 139 crore to the Delhi government, and that will be adjusted against this possible 200 crore subsidy burden. Will that strain their finances if all of a sudden that money that is owed is going to be deducted from their dues?
Well, I suppose if the distribution company was looking at 139 crores coming to them, and that is going to be adjusted against subsidy, so there would be I suppose a shortfall against money inflows. But I suppose you will have to look at it over a longer term to see if there will be any financial impact at all.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Uma Shankar, and have a great 2014.
Thank you.
Right. So that's the word coming in from the Power Secretary. But